My wife Sarah, 35F, and I, 37M, have been married for 10 years now. We met during our senior year of college at a mutual friend's birthday party. I remember being struck by her infectious laugh and quick wit. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love of obscure 80s movies and spicy food. Our first date was at a tiny Thai restaurant near campus, where we spent hours talking and laughing, oblivious to the world around us. After graduation, we both landed jobs in the same city. Sarah started as a junior copywriter at a small marketing firm, while I began my career in software development. Those early years were tough but exciting. We lived in a cramped studio apartment, ate way too much ramen, and spent our weekends exploring the city or binge-watching TV shows. Despite the challenges of starting our careers, we were happy just being together. As we progressed in our jobs, we were able to afford a nicer apartment and eventually bought our first home together. It was a fixer-upper, but we enjoyed the process of making it our own. I still remember the weekends we spent painting walls and assembling furniture, covered in dust and paint but laughing through it all. Our relationship has always been strong, built on trust and open communication. We made it a point to have regular check-ins where we discuss any issues or concerns openly. Sarah was always the one who insisted on these talks, saying that communication was the key to a lasting relationship. 5 years into our marriage, we went through a rough patch when I lost my job during a company-wide layoff. It was a stressful time, but Sarah was my rock. She picked up extra freelance work to help with our finances and never once made me feel bad about the situation. Her unwavering support during that time made me love her even more. Once I found a new job, we decided to start trying for a family. Unfortunately, we struggled with fertility issues. It was a difficult and emotional journey, filled with doctor's appointments, treatments, and disappointments. But through it all, we supported each other. We eventually decided to take a break from trying and focus on our careers and relationship. That's why the events of the past 2 months have left me feeling so confused and hurt. It started subtly. Sarah began spending more time on her phone, quickly putting it away when I entered the room. At first, I didn't think much of it. After all, she had recently been promoted to creative director at her agency, and I assumed she was just busy with work. But then I noticed other changes. She started working late more frequently, saying she had important projects to finish. Our nightly dinners together became less frequent, and when we did eat together, Sarah seemed distracted and distant. Our conversations became shorter, and she no longer seemed interested in our usual banter. When I tried to talk to her about it, she'd brush it off, saying she was just stressed about work. I wanted to believe her, but something felt off. Sarah had always been good at managing work stress, and even during her busiest periods, she made time for us. Last week, things took a turn for the worse. I was doing laundry, a chore we usually split but that I'd been doing more often lately due to Sarah's late nights at the office. As I was emptying her pockets, I found a receipt for La Belle Époque, a fancy French restaurant downtown. The date on the receipt was for a Tuesday evening when Sarah had told me she was working late. My heart sank as I stared at the receipt. Sarah and I had been wanting to try La Belle Époque for months, but could never get a reservation. How had she managed to get a table on a weeknight? And more importantly, why had she gone without me? When I asked her about it, she got defensive. She claimed it was a last-minute business dinner with a potential client that she forgot to mention. But her explanation felt hollow, especially when I remembered how excited she had been about us trying that restaurant together. I wanted to believe her, I really did. But the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. So, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone while she was in the shower. In our 10 years together, I had never once invaded her privacy like this. But I was desperate for answers. What I found left me speechless. There were numerous texts between Sarah and someone saved as Mike from work. The messages were flirty and suggestive, talking about their special lunches and how much they enjoyed spending time together. There were even a few messages planning meetups at hotels. As I scrolled through the messages, my hands shaking, I felt like I was reading about a stranger, not the woman I had built a life with. How could Sarah, who had always been so adamant about honesty in our relationship, do this? I confronted Sarah as soon as she got out of the shower. She broke down immediately, her wet hair dripping onto her bathrobe as she sobbed. She admitted that she'd been having an affair with her coworker Mike, 38M, for the past 3 months. Through her tears, Sarah explained how it started. Mike was a new client liaison at her agency, and they had been working closely on a big project. She said it started innocently, just lunch between colleagues, but quickly turned into something more. Mike had been attentive and flirtatious, making her feel desired in a way she hadn't in a long time. Sarah begged for forgiveness, saying it was a mistake and that she wanted to work on our marriage. She promised to end things with Mike immediately and suggested we go to couples counseling. She kept saying she loved me and that Mike meant nothing to her. I'm completely lost. I never saw this coming. Sarah was always the one who talked about how much she hated cheaters. We had such a good life together, a beautiful home, successful careers, and we were even talking about starting fertility treatments again soon. Now, I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to forgive her and try to salvage our marriage. We've been through so much together, the struggles of our early careers, my job loss, our fertility issues. The thought of throwing it all away is heartbreaking. But another part of me is furious and hurt beyond words. How can I ever trust her again? Every time she's late from work or looks at her phone, will I wonder if she's lying to me? And how can I get the image of her with Mike out of my head? I've moved into our spare bedroom for now. It feels strange sleeping alone in the house we bought together, surrounded by photos of happier times. Sarah keeps trying to talk to me, leaving food outside the door and sending me long, apologetic texts. But I can barely look at her without feeling sick. I've told her I need some time to think things through. I'm reaching out to this community because I need an outside perspective. Am I foolish for even considering forgiveness? Or should I just cut my losses and file for divorce? Has anyone been through something similar and managed to rebuild their relationship? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I feel like I'm drowning here, trying to reconcile the Sarah I thought I knew with this person who could betray me so deeply. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. Your words really helped me gain some perspective on my situation. After my initial post, I decided I needed some time away from Sarah to clear my head. I told her I needed space to think things through, and I went to stay with my older brother, Jake, for a couple of weeks. Jake has always been my confidant, and he was furious when I told him what Sarah had done. He offered to let me stay as long as I needed. During my time at Jake's, I did a lot of soul searching. I spent hours talking with Jake, reliving memories of my relationship with Sarah, trying to figure out where things went wrong. Jake reminded me of how happy Sarah and I had been at his wedding 3 years ago, dancing and laughing like newlyweds ourselves. It was hard to reconcile that image with our current situation. While I was away, Sarah bombarded me with calls and messages. At first, I ignored them all, needing the space to think. But after a few days, I started reading her texts. They were full of apologies and pleas for another chance. She even sent me a long email detailing how the affair started and why she did it. According to Sarah, she had been feeling neglected and unappreciated for the past year. She said I had been so focused on my work, often coming home late and spending weekends catching up on projects, that she felt like we were drifting apart. She wrote about how Mike had noticed her new haircut when I hadn't, how he had complimented her ideas in meetings while I had been too distracted to listen to her work stories at dinner. She said Mike made her feel appreciated and desired again. Reading her explanation made me reflect on our relationship. Had I really been neglecting Sarah? I thought back to the countless times I came home late, too tired to do anything but eat and sleep. The weekends I spent catching up on work instead of spending time with her. The date nights we kept postponing because one of us was too busy. Maybe I had a part to play in this mess too. But even as I acknowledged my own shortcomings, I couldn't help but feel angry. Why hadn't Sarah talked to me about feeling neglected? We had always prided ourselves on our open communication. Instead of coming to me with her concerns, she had turned to another man. After 2 weeks at Jake's, I decided it was time to go back home and talk to Sarah face to face. Jake was worried about me going back, but I knew I needed to have this conversation in person. Walking into our house felt strange. Sarah had cleaned obsessively, and the place smelled of her stress baking. The kitchen counter was piled with my favorite cookies and muffins. When she saw me, she burst into tears, but held back from hugging me when she saw my hesitation. We sat down at our kitchen table, the same one where we'd shared countless meals and conversations over the years. It was a difficult discussion, filled with tears and accusations from both sides. But we managed to have an honest talk about our relationship and where we went wrong. Sarah swore she had ended things with Mike completely. She even showed me her resignation letter. She had decided to quit her job to remove any temptation of seeing him again. She also suggested we both go to individual counseling as well as couples therapy. I agreed to try counseling, but I made it clear that I wasn't ready to forgive her yet. I told her I needed more time and that we should take things slow. She agreed, saying she'd do whatever it takes to rebuild my trust. For the past 2 weeks, we've been living in the same house but sleeping in separate rooms. It's awkward and tense, but we're trying to establish a new normal. We've both started individual counseling, and we had our first couples therapy session last week. The therapy session was intense and emotional. Our therapist, Dr. Anderson, had us discuss our expectations from the relationship and where we felt those expectations weren't being met. It was hard to hear Sarah talk about feeling neglected, but it also opened my eyes to how I had been taking our relationship for granted. One thing that came out of therapy was that we both realized we had stopped prioritizing our relationship. We got so caught up in our careers and daily routines that we forgot to nurture our marriage. It's not an excuse for what Sarah did, but it's something we both need to work on. Sarah has been trying hard to make amends. She's been cooking my favorite meals, leaving little notes around the house like she used to do when we first started dating, and giving me space when I need it. She's also been completely transparent with her phone and social media accounts, often leaving her phone out in the open as if to prove she has nothing to hide. I'm still hurting and angry, but I'm trying to keep an open mind. Dr. Anderson suggested we start having regular date nights to reconnect, so we've been doing that once a week. Our first date night was awkward. We went to the pizzeria where we had our first date in this city, but the easy conversation we used to have was replaced by stilted small talk and long silences. But each date has gotten a little easier, a little more natural. I know many of you advised me to leave Sarah, and believe me, I've considered it. The thought of starting over at 37 is daunting. But 10 years of marriage isn't something I can just walk away from without trying to save it. I think about the good times we've had, our backpacking trip through Europe, the night we stayed up until dawn talking about our dreams for the future, the way Sarah held my hand through every disappointing fertility treatment. I'm not promising anything, but I'm willing to give it a chance. That being said, I'm not naive. I've consulted with a lawyer just in case things don't work out. I'm also focusing on myself. I've started hitting the gym regularly and reconnecting with old friends. Last weekend, I met up with my college roommate for a bike ride, something I used to love but had let fall by the wayside as work took over my life. I'll keep you all updated on how things progress. Thank you again for all your support during this difficult time. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, but I'm taking it one day at a time. Update 2, it's been another month, and I wanted to give you all an update on my situation. Things have taken an unexpected turn, and I'm once again feeling lost and confused. Sarah and I have been continuing with our counseling sessions, both individually and as a couple. We've been making slow but steady progress. The date nights have been getting less awkward, and we've even shared a few genuine laughs together. Last week, we went to a cooking class together, something we'd always talked about doing but never got around to. For a few hours, as we fumbled through making pasta from scratch, it almost felt like old times. Sarah has been consistently showing remorse and putting in effort to rebuild our relationship. She's been more attentive, always asking about my day and really listening to my responses. She even surprised me by planning a weekend trip to the beach town where we got engaged, saying she wanted to remind us of happier times. I've been trying to do my part too. I've made a conscious effort to be more present when I'm home, putting away my work laptop and really engaging with Sarah. We've been having dinner together every night, just like we used to in the early days of our marriage. However, last week, something happened that has thrown everything into chaos again. I was at work, deep into coding a new feature for our software, when I received an email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read, "Your wife is still cheating." My heart dropped as I opened it. The email contained screenshots of recent conversations between Sarah and Mike. The screenshots showed that they were still in contact and planning to meet up. There were messages about how much they missed each other, and plans for a rendezvous at a hotel next week. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Just when I thought we were making progress, it felt like I was back at square one. I left work early, my mind reeling. When I got home, I found Sarah preparing dinner, humming to herself. The domesticity of the scene made me feel sick. I confronted her immediately, showing her the screenshots on my phone. The color drained from her face as she looked at them. She broke down, admitting that she had lied about ending things with Mike completely. According to Sarah, she had tried to cut off all contact with Mike after our confrontation, but he kept reaching out to her. She said she felt guilty and conflicted, which is why she responded to some of his messages. She swore that they hadn't met up physically since I found out about the affair, but she admitted to emotional cheating by continuing to communicate with him. As she talked, I felt a strange sense of déjà vu. It was like reliving the initial discovery of her affair all over again. The same tears, the same promises, the same begging for another chance. But this time, instead of shock, all I felt was a deep, overwhelming tiredness. I don't know what to believe anymore. Sarah begged me to give her one more chance, saying she'd block Mike's number and change her email address. She even offered to let me monitor all her communications. But at this point, I don't know if I can trust anything she says. I've moved out of our house and am staying with my friend Tom for now. Tom has been a great support. He went through a divorce a few years ago and understands what I'm going through. He's given me space to process my feelings but has also been there to listen when I need to talk. I need time to process this new information and decide what I want to do next. Part of me feels like an idiot for even considering reconciliation in the first place. I think about all the effort I've put into rebuilding our relationship over the past month, the therapy sessions, the emotional conversations, the attempts to reconnect, and it all feels like a waste. Another part of me still loves Sarah and wonders if there's any way to salvage this mess. I think about the life we've built together, the dreams we shared. Is it worth throwing away a decade of history over this? But then I remind myself that it's not me throwing it away. Sarah did that when she chose to continue her relationship with Mike. I've scheduled an appointment with my lawyer to discuss my options. I'm also considering taking a leave of absence from work to clear my head. This whole situation has been affecting my job performance. I've been distracted and making careless errors. My team leader has been understanding so far, but I know I need to get myself together. I'm angry, hurt, and confused. The trust that I was slowly rebuilding with Sarah has been shattered again. I don't know if I can ever trust her again after this second betrayal. But the thought of ending our marriage still breaks my heart. We've built a life together, and walking away from it feels like admitting defeat. I find myself looking at old photos of us, remembering happier times. There's one from our honeymoon in Bali, both of us grinning widely on the beach, so full of hope for our future together. Another from the day we moved into our house, covered in paint but laughing. It's hard to reconcile these memories with our current reality. I'd appreciate any advice or words of wisdom from those who have been in similar situations. How do you know when it's time to walk away? Is there any coming back from repeated betrayals like this? Thank you all for your continued support during this roller coaster of emotions. I'll update again when I've figured out my next steps. Update 3, it's been 2 months since my last update, and I wanted to share the final chapter of this story with all of you who have supported me through this difficult time. After discovering Sarah's continued contact with Mike, I decided to take a month-long leave from work and went on a solo trip to clear my head. I spent 2 weeks hiking the Appalachian Trail, something I'd always wanted to do but never found the time for. The physical exertion and solitude gave me plenty of time to think about my life and what I wanted for my future. During my time away, I thought a lot about my relationship with Sarah. I remembered the good times, our spontaneous road trips, the way she'd leave silly notes in my lunchbox, how she stood by me when I lost my job. But I also couldn't forget the pain of her betrayal, not once, but twice. When I returned home, I had a long, honest conversation with Sarah. I told her that I had decided to file for divorce. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but I knew it was necessary for my own well-being and self-respect. Sarah was devastated and tried to convince me to give her one more chance. She promised to go to intensive therapy, to cut off all contact with Mike and leave her job. She even suggested we move to a new city for a fresh start. But I stood firm in my decision. I explained that it wasn't just about her actions, but about the repeated lies and broken trust. I told her that I deserved someone who would be honest and faithful, and that I needed to respect myself enough to walk away. The divorce process has been difficult and emotional. We're selling our house, the home we lovingly renovated together over the years. Each room holds memories, from our first Christmas tree in the living room to the kitchen where we dance while cooking dinner. Packing up these memories has been painful, but also somewhat cathartic. Dividing our assets has been another challenge. We've had to make decisions about everything from furniture to our joint savings account. There have been arguments and tears, but we're trying to keep things as amicable as possible. Through all of this, I've learned a lot about myself. I've realized that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I've also learned the importance of self-respect and not compromising on my values and boundaries. I'm focusing on healing and moving forward. I've continued with individual therapy, which has been incredibly helpful in processing my emotions and planning for the future. I've also reconnected with old friends and even started a new hobby. I've taken up photography, which has been a great outlet for my emotions. As for Sarah, we're maintaining minimal contact through our lawyers. I heard through mutual friends that she's still seeing Mike, which, while painful to hear, confirms that I made the right decision. It hurts, but I'm trying to focus on my own journey rather than dwelling on her choices. I want to thank everyone in this community for your support, advice, and kind words throughout this ordeal. Your perspectives helped me see things clearly when I was too emotional to do so myself. To anyone going through a similar situation, remember that you deserve honesty, respect, and faithfulness in a relationship. It's okay to try and work things out, but it's also okay to walk away when your boundaries are repeatedly violated. As for me, I'm looking forward to the future. It's scary to be starting over at 37, but it's also exciting. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I'll face it with newfound strength and self-respect.